everyone. So today we're going to finish Unit 8, which means, woohoo, writing, everyone's favourite. Okay, so we're starting today on page 100. Okay, and we're starting with a little quiz about hobbies in the past. Okay, so if you look at page 100 and the true or false questions, I'm going to read the 6 questions, and fairly simple, you just have to decide if they're true or false. When we've finished, we'll go through the answers. Alright, so we'll start with number 1. Snake wrestling was a hobby the Romans really enjoyed practicing. What do you think, true or false? Number 2, the competitors in the Olympic Games in ancient Greece were people who just did sports for fun. Number 3, pole sitting, a game where contestants sat on a seat on top of a flagpole for as long as possible, became a popular pastime in 1920s America. Number 4, the Victorians had a keen interest in plants and often had seaweed collections. Number 5, the British invented football in the 18th century, and that is why it is the UK's national sport. Number 6, grass balling, or rolling a ball of grass to make a decoration, has long been a pastime in Japan, particularly with children and young people. So, do you have an answer for each of them? Right, well, let's go through. So, number 1, what do you have? True or false? It's false. Okay, there were many different animals that were used in these wrestling events, but they were like lions or bears, big animals, not snakes. I think I'd prefer the snake, but I'm not sure. Number 2 then, true or false? False. Yeah, so there were actually really generous prizes at the Olympic Games, so the athletes, they didn't work, they just focused like a professional sport. Number 3 then, about pole sitting. This is true. What a crazy hobby. So it says here that a man called Bill Penfield from Iowa in the USA holds the record for sitting on a flagpole for the longest time. 51 days and 20 hours. Maybe he was in lockdown. I don't know. Number 4 then, so the plants and seaweed collections. This is true. So seaweed collection was so fashionable in the 19th century that Queen Victoria herself created her own seaweed album. Weird. Okay, number 5 then. The football is obviously true. Okay, so different versions of the game existed in other countries, but we established it as the game it is today. Number 6 then is false. No, the Japanese hobby that is still very popular among young Japanese people now is origami, not grass rolling. Okay, so how many did you get correct? Loads? Good. Okay, so let's move on, all right, and have a look at this useful language. Ignore this for the moment. Useful language, adjectives and adverbs. Writing for the PET exam, it's really important that we use some interesting vocabulary, okay? It's good, it's bad, so boring, all right? So look at these examples. You might be surprised, you might be amused, you might be amazed to learn that. I think a good, interesting, weird hobby is, please don't use good, that's not good. X's hobby, so the person's name, is great, fantastic, helpful because she once said that, she famously said that, she publicly said that. Okay, so using adjectives and adverbs to make your writing more interesting. Okay, so now, okay, have a look at this article, all right, and can you find all of the adjectives and adverbs that it has? All right, so you know what to do. Press pause, read the article and underline all the adjectives and adverbs that you can find. When you've finished, press play and we'll go through it. Okay, are you ready? Go. Are you all back? Of course you are. So, in this article all about Taylor Swift and her crazy hobby, alright, so different adjectives are creative, surprised, keen, fantastic, huge, successful, busy, close, different, and important. And the adverbs, completely and extremely. Did you find them all? Excellent, of course you did. Okay, what do you think of Taylor Swift's hobby? Quite interesting, isn't it? Okay, so now I'd like you once again to pause the video and look at exercise 4 and 5. All right? In exercise 4, you need to say which paragraph, 1, 2, or 3, these different things happen. So, in which paragraph does she introduce the hobby? In which paragraph does she say why the person likes the hobby? In which paragraph does she introduce the person with the hobby? And in which paragraph does she say why this hobby is good? Okay, so for 1, 2, 3, and 4, match to the correct paragraph 1, 2, or 3. And in exercise 5, you also need to find one example of reported speech in the article. All right? So again, hit pause, and when you finish, come back to me. All right? Good luck. Go. Okay, everybody back? Of course. Easy peasy to find those things? Yeah. So, the first one then in exercise 4, which paragraph does she introduce the hobby? Obviously, it's paragraph 1. Yep, she says keen on making snow globes. Number 2, which paragraph says why the person likes the hobby? This one is in paragraph 2, when it says making snow globes gave her the chance to blah, 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 blah. Number 3, which paragraph introduces the person with the hobby? Is again number 1, paragraph 1. Taylor Swift is blah, 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 blah. And in paragraph 4, in number 4, which paragraph says why this hobby is good? Is paragraph 3. And what's the reason that they give? It helps you to relax. Okay? Now, what about the example of reported speech in the article? Did you find it? I'm sure you did. She once said that this busy lifestyle brought many challenges. Okay? Perfect. So now we're going to take a look at the exam task that you are going to do for me. So look at exercise 6. Articles for activity news. All right, I'm going to read the exam task for you, and can you decide what do you need to write, and also what should it be about? Okay, so what are you writing and what must you include? All right, are you ready? I'm going to read. Articles for activity news. Do you know someone with an interesting or unusual hobby? Why do you think they do that hobby? Explain whether you'd like to do this hobby or not. Write an article for our magazine, and we'll put the best ones in next week's issue. So, what do you think? What are you going to write? Yeah, of course, you're writing an article. And what is it about? Yeah, it's about an interesting hobby, okay, or an unusual hobby, all right? Now let's be more specific. What exactly do you need to include in your article? Well, it says here, do you know someone with an interesting or unusual hobby? So you're going to have to say the person and the hobby. Why do you think they do that hobby? So you need a reason. And also explain whether you'd like to do this hobby or not. So there are 4 things that you must include in your article. Who has the hobby? What is the hobby? Why do they do the hobby? And would you like to try this hobby? All right? So the first thing you need to think of is, which person are you going to talk about? And which interesting hobby are you going to talk about? Remember, in the PET exam, it doesn't have to be about a real person. You can invent anything you like, all right? We're testing your English, all right? Not how interesting your friends are, okay? So remember, think about the person, think about the hobby, and try to think of some interesting adjectives and adverbs that you could use to describe the person and the hobby, okay? Look at the exam tip as well. You can start an article with a question. This makes your reader interested from the beginning. Remember, we did that with the last unit, or the last time we did the article about getting your reader's attention. The same thing here. Ask a question to begin with. Have you ever tried and the interesting hobby, for example? All right? So you're actually going to have quite a lot of homework because next week is Semana Santa. All right? So homework number 1, you guessed it. It's this article. When you've finished writing the article, look at exercise 10 to check your article. So read your article again, did you? Give it a title, cover all the points in the advert, include all the things from exercise 4, make the hobby sound interesting with adjectives and adverbs, and start with a question. Okay, so homework number 1 is this article on page 101. Homework number 2 is the unit check and revision. Okay, so on page 103, I'd like you to do exercises 1, 3, and 4. Okay, on page 104, I'd like you to do exercises 1, 3, 4, and 5. Also, page 141, all of it. Okay, that's to practice the grammar from this unit. So it's got some practice of reported statements, reported questions, pronouns, and indirect questions. All right. Now, if you would also like some PET practice, excellent. First, you can look on the school website and there is a link to some Cambridge resources. If you would like a practice exam, let me know and I will email you an exam to do over the holidays. All right? I think that's enough to be getting on with. All right, and I'll see you after Semana Santa. Hopefully, it won't be long before I see you in the academy. Bye, guys.